Get up, Mama. Stop wasting our time.
The handbag hit the marble floor at 10:53 a.m., and 47 people in Pinnacle Trust Bank pretended not to see. Out of it spilled a laminated medical degree from the College of Medicine, University of Lagos, dated 1978. A photograph of a man in surgical scrubs, the edge worn from being touched. A small Bible with bookmarks made from old electricity receipts. Everything she carried in that bag, scattered across the floor of a banking hall in Victoria Island, while she lay on her side with a security guard's hand still locked around her wrist. Get up, Mama. Stop wasting our time. That was the customer service officer, 26 years old. She did not lower her voice. She did not even pretend to be embarrassed. Behind her, the branch manager folded his arms and waited for the old woman to leave on her own, the way he was used to people like her leaving. He did not know who she was. He had not bothered to check. He thought a woman in worn slippers and a cheap wrapper could not possibly have anything in his bank worth more than his lunch. Tomorrow morning, that man will lose his career, his pension, and his name in the entire Nigerian banking industry. And he will lose it in front of the woman now lying at his feet. If you have ever been treated like garbage in a place that takes your money, stay with me. Like the video, subscribe, comment your city. This one is going to hurt the right people. 2 hours earlier, at her small bungalow on Cocoa Lane in Anthony Village, Madam Ifeoma Nnamdi had been sitting at her kitchen table drinking lukewarm Lipton tea from a blue enamel cup her late husband had brought home in 1979. She was reading the day's lesson from her devotional book when her phone began to vibrate against the wood. It was Chinonso, the foundation's secretary, calling from the office in Ikeja to confirm the day's plan. 47 medical students were expected at the auditorium at the College of Medicine, University of Lagos, at 3 in the afternoon. Each would receive an envelope. Each envelope would contain a bank draft for 1 million naira. For some of them, this would be the difference between continuing their studies and going home in shame. Mama, the bank is expecting you at 11, Chinonso said. The branch manager has been notified. Should I send a car? No, my son. I will manage. Are you sure? My driver is in Aba burying his uncle. I will take a taxi. Pinnacle Trust is not Mars. Yes, Mama. The check is signed? It is signed. 47,500,000 naira. 23 years and 1 anniversary. Your work is good, my son. Go and eat something. You sound tired. She ended the call and looked across the room at the photograph above her sink. Emmanuel in his white surgical coat, the one with the missing buttons, the one he had worn, the day he had not slept for 36 hours, saving the life of the Minister of Defense's 12-year-old daughter. She had refused to throw it away. He had been a quiet man. He had refused 2 appointments to the Federal Executive Council. He had told her once, on the night they had buried his own father, that any doctor who allowed himself to become a politician should be made to return his oath. She had laughed at him. She had been 26 years old. 41 years later, she was the only one still alive who could tell that story, so she told it to no one and lived with it instead. She finished her tea. She put the empty cup in the sink. She washed her hands with the bar of Joy soap on the counter, dried them on the towel her granddaughter had bought her last Christmas, and went into the bedroom to dress. She did not own expensive clothes. She had stopped owning expensive clothes the year her husband died, when she had decided that nothing she could put on her body would honor him better than what he had asked her to do with the money he had left behind. The dividends from her shares in Pinnacle Trust Bank Limited, the bank her husband had helped capitalize in 1991, with 3 other doctors and an accountant, came to slightly under 140 million naira a year. 73% of that went into the Emmanuel Nnamdi Memorial Scholarship Foundation. The rest paid for her house, her food, her medicine, and her one small annual indulgence, which was a week alone in a quiet hotel in Calabar where nobody knew her name. This morning she put on a grey wrapper that had been washed too many times, a white blouse with a small ink mark on the cuff that no one would notice, the wooden slippers she liked because they made her feet feel cool, and a thin silver chain with a small cross. She did not put on jewelry. She did not put on a watch. She tied a black scarf around her hair the way her mother had taught her. She picked up her handbag, old leather, hand-stitched along the strap, bought 31 years ago at the Tinubu Square Market for 900 naira, and put inside it the things she always carried: the Bible, the prayer beads, the folded photograph of Emmanuel, the signed check inside a brown envelope, her bank verification number card, her national identification card, her passport, the letter from a boy named Ushena, who had written to her last year from Kano Medical College to tell her that he was now in his 3rd year of medical school, because of a scholarship she had funded 8 years earlier, when he was 14. She did not bring an umbrella. She locked her front door at 9:18 a.m. She walked the 200 meters to Coco Lane Junction. She raised her hand for a taxi. The first one passed without slowing. The second one stopped. "Mama, where are you going?" "Pinnacle Trust Bank." "Victoria Island." "Victoria Island? For this morning traffic?" 3,500. "That is too much. I will give you 2,000. The driver looked at her. He looked at her clothes. He decided, 2,500. Last price. She got in. His name was Innocent. He was from Imo State. He had 3 children. His wife sold soft drinks at Yaba bus stop. He talked the whole way, which was good, because it meant she did not have to. He told her that his oldest child was applying to the College of Medicine. He told her that the application fees were unreasonable. He told her that the country was hard. She listened. When they arrived at the Pinnacle Trust Bank building at 47 Akin Adesola Street, Victoria Island, at 10:42 a.m., she gave him 3,000 naira and told him to keep the change. He looked at the money. He looked at her. "Mama, thank you. May God bless you. Please, if you have time after, take my number. My boy is serious. If you know anybody who can help with the school fees, even if it is only advice on how to apply, anything." She wrote down his number on the back of her appointment card. She did not promise anything. She did not need to promise. She had already decided. She stepped out of the taxi at 10:43 a.m. She walked into the marble lobby of Pinnacle Trust Bank Victoria Island branch at 10:45 a.m. She greeted the receptionist, who did not look up from her phone. She walked across the lobby, past the gold-framed photographs of the bank's executives, past her own son's portrait at the end of the wall, which she did not look at because she had not come here to be seen, and stood at the back of the customer service queue. She waited 18 minutes. When her turn came, she walked to counter number 3 and met the young woman whose nameplate read Adaobi Ihianacho, Customer Service Officer, Grade 2. The girl looked up, looked down again at her screen, did not greet. "Yes? Good morning, my daughter. How may I help you?" "I want to cash a check." "Step aside and join the cash withdrawal queue. This is customer service. We don't process tellers' work." "My daughter, the check is for 47,500,000 naira. I was told to bring it to customer service for verification first." Adeobi's hands stopped moving. She did not look up. She typed something. She typed it slowly. She typed it again. 47.5 million. "Yes." "Mama, do you have an appointment?" "My foundation's secretary called yesterday. The branch was notified." "What foundation?" "The Emmanuel Namdi Memorial Scholarship Foundation." "I have not heard of it." "That is because you have not been working here for 23 years. The foundation has banked here for 23 years. Adaobi finally looked up. She looked at the wrapper. She looked at the slippers. She looked at the scarf. She looked back at her screen. "Mama, please show me the check." She passed it across the counter. Adaobi took it with 2 fingers, the way a person takes a thing they expect to be soiled. She turned it over. She read the amount line. She read the signature line. She read the date. She read the account number. Mama, where did you get this check? It is my check. Mama, this is not a small amount. We have to verify. That is why I am here. Verify it. The system is slow this morning. Then wait until it is fast. Mama, perhaps you should come back later. I will not come back later. I have a disbursement at 3 this afternoon. 47 students are waiting. Verify the check, my daughter. Adaobi smiled. It was a small smile. It did not move her eyes. Mama, I'm going to need you to provide additional identification. I have my BVN card, my national ID card, and my passport. I'm going to need a utility bill. I do not carry a utility bill to the bank. The account has been active for over 2 decades. My biometrics are on file. My BVN matches. Mama, the system requires. The system does not require a utility bill for an existing customer with a valid BVN. Section 4. 2 of the Central Bank of Nigeria Consumer Protection Framework, which I assume you have read because it is part of your training, prohibits demanding documents that are not required by regulation as a means of delaying service. I am asking you politely to verify the check. Adaobi blinked. She had not expected the words. She looked at the old woman in the worn wrapper and the wooden slippers and tried to reconcile the sentence she had just heard with the face she was looking at. Then she did what people do when they cannot reconcile 2 things. She picked the one she already believed. Mama, where did you read that? On WhatsApp? The woman in the chair next to Adaobi laughed. Madam Ifeoma did not laugh. Verify the check, my daughter. Mama, you are causing a scene. I have not raised my voice. You are arguing with bank staff. I am asking you to do your job. Mama, I am going to call my manager. Please do. Adaobi picked up her desk phone. She dialed an extension. She spoke in the kind of stage whisper that is meant to be overheard. Sir, there is a woman here. I think she came from her village. She is claiming to have a check for 47 million naira. I have asked her for documentation. She is being difficult. She put the phone down. She did not look at Madam Ifeoma. She typed something into her computer and pretended to be working. The other woman behind the counter, Tessie Adekunle, 24 years old, 3rd year as a junior teller, daughter of a primary school teacher in Mushin, glanced up from her own screen and looked at Madam Ifeoma for the first time. She looked at the silver chain. She looked at the scarf. She looked at the worn handbag on the counter. She did not look away. The door to the branch manager's office opened at 10:51 a.m. Mr. Festus Onuoha walked out. He was 38 years old. He was wearing a navy suit from a Lebanese tailor on Awolowo Road that had cost him 210,000 naira. He was wearing a wristwatch that had cost him slightly more. He had been promoted to the position of branch manager 7 months earlier, after his previous branch in Lekki had recorded the highest profit margin in the bank for 3 consecutive quarters. He believed that the reason for his success was that he had learned, earlier than most of his colleagues, that not every customer who walked into a bank was actually a customer. Some, he had decided, were merely visitors. Some did not belong. He looked at Madam Ifeoma. He looked at her clothes. He decided. Good morning, madam. I'm told there is a problem. Good morning, sir. There is no problem. I came to cash a check. Your officer is asking me for a utility bill, which is not required. Madam, my officer was following procedure. Your officer was inventing procedure. Madam, please don't accuse my staff. I am stating a fact, sir. Section 4, 2 of the CBN. Madam, please. With all due respect, you are an elderly woman, and I am sure you mean well. But this is a serious institution. We process large transactions every day. If our processes seem complicated to you, I'm sure your son or your nephew or someone familiar with banking can help you. Perhaps if you came back with someone who is familiar with banking, who can help you understand the requirements. I understand the requirements, sir. Festus smiled. It was the same smile Adaobi had used. It was apparently a smile they were taught. "Madam, please. I'm going to ask you politely. The check, please? Let me see it." She passed it to him. He held it. He looked at the amount. He looked at her. He laughed. It was a short, quiet laugh designed to be heard by his staff and not by anyone else. "Madam, 47 million naira. Tell me, where do you live?" "Anthony Village." "Anthony Village." "Yes, and you walked in here on a Tuesday morning with a 47.5 million naira check, and you would like me to verify it." "Yes, madam, this is a serious bank, I am aware. This is not a place to come and play games. I am not playing. Madam, I am going to be honest with you. I see people like you every week. They come in with documents that look real. Sometimes they have been sent by people who want to test our procedures. Sometimes they have been used. Sometimes the documents have been stolen. I do not know which one you are, but I cannot verify this check this morning." "Why not?" "Because I do not believe it." "That is not a procedural reason, sir. It is the reason." "Then I am asking you to call your regional head." "Madam," or your chairman. Festus laughed again. "Madam, please, do you know who the chairman of this bank is?" "Yes." "Then you know that he does not take calls about cleaners' transactions." She did not answer. She looked at him. She did not blink. She kept her hands folded on top of her handbag. After a moment, Festus turned and looked at Hassan, who had been standing near the entrance the whole time watching. "Hassan, sir, please show Madam to the door." "Sir." "Madam, you can come back when you have someone with you." "I will not be leaving, sir. I came to do banking. I will sit and wait until somebody with authority can speak with me." "Madam, you cannot sit and wait. This is not a hospital." "I am aware. I will sit anyway, Hassan." Hassan walked over. He was a tall man. He had been a security guard at Pinnacle Trust Bank for 8 years. He had 4 children. The eldest had just started SS3 at a public school in Ajigunle. His wife had been laid off from a packaging factory in February. He needed this job. He came up behind Madame Ifeoma. He put his hand on her left wrist. It was not gentle, he pulled. She rose, but the chair was caught against the rim of the counter. The pull was harder than it needed to be. Her balance went. Her handbag, which had been resting on her lap, slid forward and fell. Then she fell, and the contents of her bag rolled out across the marble floor at the feet of 47 people who pretended not to see. The first thing she did was reach for the photograph. It had landed face up on the marble. Emmanuel in his white coat, looking past the camera at something she could no longer remember. She picked it up before she picked up anything else. She brushed the dust off the corner with her thumb. She put it back inside the Bible, between the pages of Psalm 37. Then she gathered the rest. The prayer beads, the folded letter from Uchenna, the medical degree from 1978 in its plastic sleeve, which had cracked along one edge, her national ID card, her passport, the check, which had landed near the foot of the counter, and which she retrieved with her bare hand, because no one bent to help her except Tessie, who had come around the counter, and was now picking up the small bottle of Joy soap that had also rolled out. "Mama, please, let me." "Thank you, my daughter." "Mama, are you all right?" "I am all right, Mama." "Thank you, my daughter. Stand up. Do not lose your job for me." Tessie did not stand up. She finished picking up the last items. She passed them to Madame Ifeoma. She tried to look at her, but the older woman was already turning away, putting the items back into the handbag, with the care of a person who had handled them many times before. Hassan stood 3 steps away. He was looking at the floor. Festus had already returned to his office. Adeobi was at her counter, pretending to type. Madame Ifeoma rose to her feet without help. She put the handbag back over her shoulder. She straightened her wrapper. She adjusted the scarf on her head. She did not say anything to Hassan. She did not say anything to Adeobi. She walked the 22 paces from counter number 3 to the glass doors of Pinnacle Trust Bank Victoria Island branch. She did not look back. She stepped out onto Akin Adesola Street at 10:57 a.m. The sun had already moved past the building. The street smelled of diesel and frangipani. She raised her hand for a taxi. The first one stopped. "Mama, where are you going?" "Anthony Village. 4,000, 2,500, 3,500, 3,000. Get in, Mama." She got in. She did not say anything for 23 minutes. The driver looked at her in his mirror twice. The third time, he said nothing. When she got home, she paid him the 3,000 naira. He took it without counting. She walked to her front door. She unlocked it. She went inside. She set the handbag on the dining table. She did not put on the kettle. She did not sit down at her usual chair. She walked into the bedroom. She stood in front of the photograph above her dresser, the same photograph she had carried that morning. In a larger frame, she looked at her husband. She did not cry. She had not cried since the day he had died. She had decided on the morning of his funeral that she would never cry where strangers could see her, because she did not want anyone to ever own that part of her. 23 years later, the rule still held. But her hand was shaking. She sat on the edge of the bed. She picked up her phone. She scrolled past the photograph of her granddaughter, past her son's last text message, past the calendar reminder for the foundation event at 3. She pressed his name. He picked up on the second ring. "Mama, what is it?" "My son, what is wrong? Your voice. Are you alone? I will be in 2 seconds. Hold the line." She heard him move. She heard the sound of his office chair. She heard a door close. "Mama, I'm alone. Tell me." "My son, I went to the bank this morning." "Yes." "To Pinnacle, Victoria Island branch." "Yes. I was going to cash the check for the foundation." "Yes, Mama, they would not cash it." "Why not?" "They said I did not look like someone who could have that money." The line went quiet, she continued. The customer service officer demanded a utility bill. I told her it was not required. She laughed at me. She called her manager. The manager came out. He told me to come back with someone who could understand banking. I told him I understood banking. He laughed. He said this was a serious institution. He told the security guard to remove me. The security guard pulled my wrist. The chair caught. My bag fell. I fell with it. The photograph of your father was on the floor. The medical degree was on the floor. The check was on the floor. 47 people in that bank pretended not to see me. One girl helped me. Tessie. Her name was Tessie, on her nameplate. I picked up everything. I left. I did not raise my voice. I came home. There was a long silence on the line. When he spoke, his voice was very level. "What time was this, Mama?" "Between 10:47 and 10:57. "And the manager's name?" "Festus Onuoha." The customer service officer was Adobe Iheanacho. The security guard was Hassan. I did not see his last name. Was the disbursement at 3? Yes. Has Chinonso been notified that the check did not clear? No. I will call him after I speak with you. Do not call him. Daniel. My name is Chime, Mama. Do not call him. I will arrange the funds in 20 minutes. The disbursement will happen at 3. The students will not know. My son. Do not call him. All right. She heard him breathing. She heard the sound of him pulling something across his desk. Paper, she thought, or a folder. Mama, I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly. Yes. Are you all right physically? I am bruised on my hip. I am not seriously injured. Have you taken anything for the pain? Not yet. Take something. Take it before we hang up. I will. Mama, there is a procedure for what happens next. I want you to know what it is before I begin. May I tell you? Tell me. I will not call the bank now. I will not call the manager. I will not call the security guard. If I call now, the conversation will be about me, and what they did will be about me. That is not what happened. What happened was about you. So tomorrow morning, you and I will walk into that bank together. You will go to the same counter. You will request the same service. You will speak to the same people. They will treat you the same way. And then I will reveal who I am in front of them, with witnesses, with our regional head, with our head of legal, with our head of ethics, and with their own footage from yesterday on a screen behind us. There will be a formal hearing. There will be due process. There will be evidence. There will be a record. And there will be consequences that no one can later argue were emotional. Do you understand? Yes, Mama. I am not asking permission. I am telling you what will happen. I understand. But I will ask one thing. I will not do this if you tell me not to. If you tell me to let it go, I will let it go. She thought about it for a long moment. She thought about the 17 years she had been on the board of governors of the Lagos University Teaching Hospital. She thought about the 47 students who would receive envelopes at 3 o'clock. She thought about Tessie. She thought about the woman in the chair next to Adaobi who had laughed. She thought about how many other people, on how many other Tuesdays, had walked out of a bank with their face down. "Do it," she said. "Thank you, Mama." But chime. Yes, you will not shout. You will not lose your temper. You will not embarrass them. You will let them embarrass themselves. And you will wear a polo shirt. A polo shirt. Yes. The blue one your daughter bought you last year. No watch, no jewelry, no suit, no driver. We will take a taxi. Mama. Do you want to know why? Yes. Because if you walk in there tomorrow as the chairman, you have already lost the lesson. The lesson is not that they were rude to the chairman's mother. The lesson is that they were rude to a woman in a worn wrapper. If they are only ashamed because of who I am, the next woman they see in a wrapper will be treated the same way. The shame must be for the act, not for the person. Do you understand? He was quiet. When he answered, his voice was different. Yes, Mama, wear the polo shirt. I will wear the polo shirt. And my son. Yes, eat something before you start making your phone calls. You have not eaten since yesterday. I can hear it in your voice. Yes, Mama. She ended the call. She put the phone down on the bed beside her. She sat for a long time looking at the photograph. Then she rose, walked to the kitchen, and put the kettle on for tea. At 3:12 p.m. that afternoon, in the auditorium at the College of Medicine, University of Lagos, 47 young people sat in rows of folding chairs and waited for their names to be called. Most of them were in their early 20s. 2 were in their late 30s, returning to medical school after careers in other fields. 1 was 19. The youngest scholar the foundation had ever accepted, a girl from Bielsa who had finished her secondary school certificate exam with one of the highest scores in the country. They wore their best clothes. Some of them wore borrowed clothes. One of them, young man from Sokoto, was wearing a shirt he had ironed that morning using a kettle, because the iron in his hostel had been stolen the week before. They did not know what had happened that morning at the bank. They did not know that the check that funded the disbursement had been rejected on the basis of a worn wrapper and a pair of wooden slippers. They did not know that the funds had been moved from a different account at the last possible moment. They did not know that the woman who would, in 11 minutes, walk onto the small stage at the front of the auditorium, had spent the early afternoon sitting in her kitchen, looking at a photograph, and deciding whether to come at all. She came. She arrived at 2:56 p.m. in a taxi, alone in the same wrapper. She walked past Chinonzo, who tried to take her arm and was politely refused. She walked onto the stage. She sat in the chair on the left. She put her handbag on her lap. She did not look at anyone in the audience for the first 3 minutes. When her name was called, she stood, walked to the lectern, and began to read the names. She read them the way her husband had read them for the first 13 years of the foundation's life. Slowly, carefully, looking at each face as it stood. Pronouncing each name correctly, even the ones from languages she had never spoken. Because she had spent the night before the event learning the pronunciation from a recorded message Chinonzo had sent her. The 47th name was the girl from Bielsa. The girl walked up onto the stage. She took the envelope. She looked at Madame Ifuma, and she said very quietly, in front of 46 other students and their families and a photographer from a national newspaper, "Mama, Thank you. I will become the kind of doctor your husband was. Madame Ifuma did not cry. She had decided 23 years earlier that she would not cry where strangers could see her. But she held the girl's hand for slightly longer than she needed to, and she said, "Become a better one, he would have wanted that." The girl nodded. She left the stage. The applause lasted longer than was usual. When Madame Ifeoma went home that night, she did not turn on the television. She sat in her kitchen, in the same chair she had sat in that morning, and she drank a fresh cup of tea, and she allowed her hand to shake. She allowed it to shake because no one was watching. In his office on the 23rd floor of Pinnacle Tower at Eleganza Plaza, Chaim Nanamdi placed his phone face down on his desk. He sat very still for 40 seconds. Then he opened the top right drawer, removed a small notebook he had not used in 11 years, took the cap off his fountain pen, and wrote 3 names at the top of a blank page. Festus Onuoha, Adaobi Ihianacho. Hassan, last name unknown. Below them he wrote one more name, Tessie. Then he put the cap back on the pen. He picked up his desk phone and pressed extension 2014. Mrs. Bankole, Chairman, are you in your office? I am. Please come up. Do not bring anyone. Bring your personal laptop, not your work laptop. Sir. He pressed extension 1109. Tunde, sir, are you alone? Yes, come up. Bring the disciplinary procedures binder. Bring the industrial court precedents from last year. Bring the BVN-linked employment verification documentation. Sir, may I ask? Not on the phone. Yes, sir. He pressed extension 1701. Mr. Garber. Chairman, I need the Ethics Committee on standby for tomorrow morning at 9:45. Formal hearing. 3 respondents, possibly 4. Sir, the agenda for tomorrow has the board meeting at. The board meeting is moved to noon. I will explain to the directors. Be ready at 9:45 with full procedure. Sir. He pressed extension 1402, operations. Branch surveillance. This is the chairman. Sir, I want CCTV footage from the Victoria Island branch. Main banking hall, counter 3, manager's office, entrance. From 10:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. today. I want it pulled, time-stamped, hashed, and sent to legal compliance within the next 90 minutes. Chain of custody recorded. Do not erase. Do not edit. Do not let anyone at the branch know it has been pulled. Is that understood? Yes, sir. I will handle it personally. Thank you. He put the phone down. He sat for another 40 seconds. Then he picked the phone up again and pressed extension 1801. Mama Yetunde. Chairman, please cancel my afternoon, cancel my evening, cancel my dinner with the Equatorial Bank delegation. Reschedule the Q2 review. Sir, the Equatorial delegation. They will understand. Tell them I am attending to a family matter. If they ask, do not elaborate. Yes, sir. And Mama Yetunde. Sir, make sure the foundation account at Pinnacle has 47,500,000 naira available for disbursement by 2 p.m. The check did not clear at the branch this morning. I do not want the disbursement event affected. Sir, what happened? Not on the phone. Yes, sir. He hung up. He sat back in his chair. He looked at the framed photograph on his desk. His father. His mother, much younger, standing beside him at a hospital opening in Orca, holding his hand. He looked at it for a long time. Then he picked up the notebook again and wrote, "Below the 4 names, 1 sentence. The shame must be for the act, not for the person." He underlined it twice. There was a knock on his door. "Come in." Mrs. Bankole stepped inside. She was 56. She had been with Pinnacle Trust Bank for 19 years. She had been the regional head for the Southwest for the last 4. She was the kind of person who, when she walked into a meeting, looked at every face in the room before she sat down. She looked at him. She did not ask what was wrong. She closed the door behind her. "Sir, Mrs. Bankole, I am going to brief you on something that happened at the Victoria Island branch this morning. I am also going to brief Tunde and Yusuf when they arrive. What I tell you now is not yet a complaint. By tomorrow morning it will be." I want you to listen, and I want you to think about what you would do if it had happened to anyone else's mother, because that is the procedure we are going to follow. She nodded once. She sat. He told her. She listened without interrupting. When he had finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Sir, before we go further, may I ask you one question?" "Yes. Are we going to handle this as it should be handled, or as you want it to be handled? Because those are not always the same thing, and I will only help with one of them." He looked at her. He smiled briefly, for the first time that hour. "My mother already told me," he said. "We will handle it as it should be handled. Then I'm in." By the time Tunde Balagun and Yusuf Garba arrived, the four of them had a procedure. They reviewed the Nigerian banker's code of conduct, sections relating to customer dignity. They reviewed the bank's own staff handbook, which had been written 11 years earlier, and which Chime now realized had not been seriously updated since. They reviewed Section 36 of the Nigerian Constitution on fair hearing. They reviewed 3 industrial court rulings from the previous 18 months on summary dismissal versus due process. They drafted the hearing's procedure. They drafted the list of evidence. They drafted 3 letters. A notification of formal investigation. A notification of suspension pending investigation. A notification of preliminary findings. They did not draft termination letters yet. The termination letters would only be drafted after the hearing. "The point," Chime said to the 3 of them as they were leaving his office at 5:43 p.m., "is that what we do tomorrow must hold up if any of those 3 people takes us to the industrial court. I do not want a single one of them to be able to argue later that we acted out of personal vendetta. They will lose their jobs because of what they did, and because the procedure for what they did was followed. That is the only way the bank survives this without becoming the story." Mrs. Bankole stopped at the door. "Sir, yes. May I say something? Please. What they did to your mother is what they have been doing for a long time. I want you to be ready for what the investigation will find. I do not think it will be only one incident. I do not think it will be only one branch." He looked at her. "I am ready for that." "Are you?" "I am." She nodded. "All right," she said. "I'll see you tomorrow." That evening at 7:26 p.m., Chime Nnamdi drove himself in his daughter's old Honda Accord to his mother's house in Ansesni village. He had not driven himself anywhere in 8 years. He took the wrong turn twice. When he arrived, she had already made jollof rice and fried plantain. They ate at her kitchen table without speaking very much. She refused to let him do the washing up. She told him to go home and sleep. He told her that he would stay the night. She told him that if he stayed the night, she would not sleep, because she would be worried that he was worried. He stayed. He did not sleep. At 4 a.m, he heard her in the kitchen. He went out and found her drinking tea in the dark. "Mama, what are you doing?" "I am thinking about your father." "What about him? He would have hated this." "What part?" "All of it. He would have hated that they did it. He would have hated that you have to fix it. He would have hated that we live in a country where this is normal." He sat across from her. She poured him a cup. "Mama, yes." What would he have done, she thought. He would have given the manager one chance to be honest, she said. He would have asked him very quietly whether he understood what he had done. If the manager had said yes, he would have given him a second chance. If the manager had lied, your father would have ended his career without raising his voice. Then that is what we will do. Yes, my son. She handed him the cup. That is what we will do. That same evening, in a 2-bedroom flat in Mushin, Tessie Adekunle sat on the floor of her small kitchen with a black notebook open on her knees. Her mother, Mrs. Adekunle, who had taught Primary 3 at the Mushin Estate Primary School for 31 years, sat in the chair opposite her, drinking pepper soup from a plastic bowl. "How long have you been writing in that book?" her mother said. 6 months. "And what do you write in it?" "Things that happen at the bank, Mama. What kinds of things? Tessie did not answer for a moment. Then she said, Mama, today they made an old woman fall. They pulled her wrist. She was small, she was alone, and they laughed afterwards. I picked her things up off the floor. I am the only one who picked her things up. And I keep thinking about my own grandmother. Her mother put the bowl down. What is in the book, Tessie? Names, dates, counters, incidents. There are 15 of them. Customers I have seen and treated the way that woman was treated today. I have not said anything about any of them. I told myself I was waiting for the right time. I was lying to myself. There is no right time. There is only the time before the next one, and the time after. Her mother looked at the book. She looked at her daughter. Tessie, Mama, if you bring that book forward, what will happen to you? I do not know. You could lose your job. I could. You are the one paying for your sister's school fees. I know, Mama. And you would still bring it forward. Yes, Mama. Mrs. Adikunle was quiet for a long time. Then she picked up her bowl and finished the pepper soup. She rinsed the bowl in the sink. She came back to the chair. She sat down. Your father, before he died, used to say that the only kind of money that does not curse you is the kind you earn, without your mouth tasting like salt afterwards. If your mouth has been tasting like salt for 6 months, then you have been earning the wrong kind of money. Bring the book forward. Tessie looked at her. You are sure? I am sure. Mama, what if they fire me? Then I will go back to teaching for another year, and you will live with me until you find something else. I have lived through worse than your salary. Bring the book forward. Tessie closed the notebook. She put it in her uniform pocket. She set the uniform pocket on the back of the kitchen chair. She did not sleep well that night. She slept better than she had slept in 6 months. In a one-room apartment in Ajigunle that same night, Hassan Abubakar sat on the edge of a thin mattress and stared at the wall. His wife was asleep beside him. The smallest of his 4 children, a girl of 3, was asleep across the wife's chest. The other 3 children slept on a single mat on the floor at the foot of the bed. The room smelled of kerosene from the small lantern he kept by the door. Because the apartment had not had electricity since Friday. He had not eaten dinner. He had told his wife that he was not hungry. She had not believed him. She had not asked. He thought about the old woman in the worn wrapper. He thought about the way her hand had felt under his hand. Thin, light. The kind of wrist you did not need to pull. The kind of wrist a person walked away from when they were told to. He thought about his oldest son, who would, on Monday, write the junior secondary school certificate examination. He thought about the school fees. He thought about his wife's last paycheck from the packaging factory, which had come in February and which had now been spent down to nothing. He thought about the manager who had told him, in his 2nd year on the job, that being a security guard at a bank was about understanding which customers were customers and which were not. He thought about the 12 other people he had escorted out of the Victoria Island branch over the previous year. He could not remember any of their faces. He had remembered Mama's face on the way home. He stood up. He walked to the corner of the room where his uniform was hanging. He took a small black notebook out of the inside pocket of his jacket, the one he carried for noting visitor names, and he turned to a blank page. And by the light of the kerosene lantern, he began to write. He wrote, in his own handwriting, the names and approximate dates of the 12 people he could partially remember. 8 of them he could only describe by what they had been wearing. 2 of them he could remember by name because they had said it to him. 1 of them, a young man with one leg shorter than the other, he had escorted out only 2 months earlier. He remembered him because the young man had said, on the way out, "Thank you, brother. May God still be a brother to you tomorrow." Hassan finished the list at 2:17 a.m. He put the notebook in his pocket. He went back to bed. He did not sleep. In the morning, he would put the notebook in his jacket. He would carry it to work. He would not, when he was eventually given his moment to speak, mention the notebook unless he was asked, because he had decided that bringing it forward voluntarily would feel too much like asking for something. But he would carry it. And if anybody asked him, he would hand it over. Nobody would ask him. He would hand it over anyway. At 9:17 a.m. the following morning, a yellow Lagos taxi pulled to a stop in front of 47 Akin Adesola Street. The back door opened. An elderly woman in the same grey wrapper, the same white blouse, with the small ink mark on the cuff, the same wooden slippers, and the same black scarf stepped out. After her, a man in his early 40s stepped out. He was wearing a blue polo shirt that had been washed enough times to soften at the collar. He was wearing dark jeans. He was wearing leather sandals. He was wearing no watch. He was carrying nothing. He had not shaved. He paid the driver. He turned to his mother. "Are you ready, Mama?" "I am ready. Slowly, please. I will go at the pace I am going. You will keep up." He smiled. He opened the glass door for her. They walked together into the marble lobby of Pinnacle Trust Bank Victoria Island branch. The receptionist did not look up from her phone. Chime watched her for 2 seconds, made a small note in his head, and walked on. The branch was not yet full. It was early. There were 9 customers in the queue and 4 counters open. Adaobi Iheanacho was at counter number 3. Tessie Adekunle was at counter number 2. Hassan Abubakar was standing near the entrance. He looked up when they walked in. He recognized the wrapper. He recognized the scarf. He recognized the handbag. Then he recognized the woman. He did not move, but something in his face changed. He looked at the floor. He looked at the door. He looked at the floor again. Tessie looked up. She also recognized. She looked at Madame Ifeoma. Then she looked, for the first time, at the man standing beside her. She looked at his face. She looked at his face again. Then her eyes went very wide. She did not say anything. She did not move. She was the only person in the banking hall who had recognized both of them. Madame Ifeoma and her son walked to the back of the customer service queue and waited. They waited 11 minutes. When her turn came, she walked to counter number 3. Adaobi looked up. She did not greet. She looked at Madame Ifeoma. She looked again. Her face moved through 3 expressions in less than 2 seconds. Confusion, recognition. A small, private smile that she did not quite manage to suppress. "Mama, you came back. I came back. With your son. With my son. Mama, I told you yesterday what the procedure was. You told me yesterday to come back with someone who could understand banking. He is my son." Adaobi looked at Chime. She looked at the polo shirt. She looked at the sandals. She looked at the unshaved chin. She looked at the bare wrist. She made the same decision her colleagues had made the day before. "Good morning, sir. Are you the one helping Mama today?" "Good morning. What is your relationship to her?" "I am her son." "You are her son?" "Yes. And do you understand banking, sir?" "A little. What do you do for a living, sir?" He paused for half a second. "I work in finance. In Lagos." "In Lagos. Which company, sir?" "Pinnacle Trust Bank Limited." She did not believe him. She did not even pretend to consider it. She smiled the small smile again. "Sir, please, where do you work in Pinnacle? Which branch?" "I work at the head office." "In what department, sir?" "Administration." "Administration." "Yes, sir, do you have an ID card?" "I have one in my pocket. May I see it?" "In a moment." He did not take it out. He turned to his mother. "Mama, may I sit?" "Sit, my son." He sat in the chair next to her. He looked at Adaobi. "Please proceed." Adaobi looked from one to the other. She did not know what to do with the situation, but she did know how she felt about the people in front of her, and she trusted her feeling. "Mama, do you still want to cash the check from yesterday?" "Yes." "The 47.5 million naira check?" "Yes." "And your son is here to support your transaction?" "Yes." She turned the check over. She turned it back. She typed something. She typed it slowly. "Mama, I am still not seeing the appointment on the system. My foundation secretary confirmed it on Monday." "Mama, the system does not have it." "Then the system has a problem." "Mama, perhaps you can show me a confirmation email." "I do not carry confirmation emails to the bank." Mama, then perhaps your son has it. Chime did not move. He did not speak. Adaobi waited. He did not respond. She turned back to Madame Ifeoma. Mama, I am going to have to call my manager again. I am sorry. Please do. She picked up the desk phone. She dialed an extension. She spoke in the same stage whisper. Sir, the mama from yesterday is here. She came with her son. They have come for the same matter, sir. She put the phone down. She did not look at them. She typed something. Mr. Festus Onuoha walked out of his office at 9:42 a.m. He was wearing a different suit. He looked refreshed. He had slept well. He saw Madame Ifeoma. He saw the chair beside her. He saw the man in the polo shirt. He stopped at counter 3. Madam, you are back. I am back. And this is my son. He looked at Chime. He smiled. Good morning, sir. I am Festus Onoha. I am the branch manager. May I ask what you do for a living? I work in finance. At which institution? Pinnacle Trust Bank Limited. Which branch, sir? Head office. Which department? Administration. I see. He smiled at his employee. She smiled back. They had an understanding. Sir, may I be direct with you? Please, sir. Your mother came in here yesterday with a check. We could not verify the check. We asked her to come back with someone who could help her with the procedures. I see that she has done that. I am very happy. But sir, you understand, the procedures are still the procedures. If your mother is the customer, then your mother is the one who must provide what the procedures require. Which what? A utility bill, sir, to confirm her current address. Section 4.2 of the CBN Consumer Protection Framework specifies the documents required for a known customer with a valid BVN. Utility bills are not among them. They are required for new account holders, not for existing customers conducting a withdrawal. You know this. There was a small silence. Festus's smile faltered for half a second. Then he recovered. Sir, with all due respect, you said you work in administration. I did. In administration at Pinnacle. Yes. Sir, may I see your staff ID? In a moment. Sir, I would like to see it now. In a moment. Sir, I am the branch manager. I am asking you politely, may I see the staff ID? Sir, before I show it to you, I want to ask you one question. Do you remember a customer named Mrs. Adesua Igbinidian? Festus blinked. Who? Adesua Igbinidian. Widow. 71 years old. She came to this branch on the 17th of October last year. She tried to access a savings account belonging to her late husband. You spoke with her personally. She left in tears. Do you remember her? Sir, I see a lot of customers. That is not what I asked. Sir, I cannot be expected to remember every. I will name another one. Mr. Sunday Okachukwu, driver, came in on January the 8th this year. He had a cash deposit of 340,000 naira. You called him into your office. You asked him where he had gotten the money. You suggested, in front of 2 of your staff, that he should make smaller deposits in future. You said it would, quote, look less suspicious. Do you remember him? Sir, I do not. Mrs. Halima Ibrahim, trader, came in on February the 22nd. You told her her account balance was, quote, too small to be worth her bothering us. Do you remember her? Sir, I will name 14 more if you would like. Festus's hand was on the counter. He had stopped, smiling. Sir, who are you? Chime took the ID card out of his back pocket. He placed it face up on the counter. He did not push it forward. He did not need to. Festus looked down. He looked at the photograph. He looked at the name. He looked at the title. He looked at the bank logo. He looked back at the man. He did not say anything for what felt to him like a very long time. The glass doors at the front of the branch opened. Mrs. Bankali walked in. Behind her, Tunde Balogun walked in. Behind him, Yusuf Garba walked in. Behind them, 4 lawyers in dark suits walked in. They did not approach the counter. They stood in a line at the back of the banking hall. They waited. The hum of the air conditioning was the loudest sound in the room. The receptionist at the front desk finally looked up from her phone. She put the phone down. Chime did not raise his voice. He spoke the way he had been speaking the whole morning. "My name is Chaim Nanamdi. I am the chairman and managing director of Pinnacle Trust Bank Limited. The woman you spoke to yesterday, the woman you described as someone who did not understand banking, the woman whose check you refused to verify, the woman whose wrist your security guard pulled hard enough to throw her to the floor in front of 47 people who pretended not to see, is my mother. She is also a founding shareholder of this institution. She has held her shares since 1991. Her late husband, Dr. Emmanuel Nanamdi, was one of the 4 original capitalizers of this bank. The check she presented yesterday is for 47,500,000 naira. It is drawn against an account that has been active for 23 years. It is for the annual disbursement of the Emmanuel Nanamdi Memorial Scholarship Foundation, which yesterday afternoon sent 47 medical students into their next academic year. The funds came from another account. She had to call to make that happen. She should not have had to. He paused. Adobe was sitting very still. Festus was holding the edge of the counter. "Mr. Onuoha, Missy Hinacho, please come with us to the conference room on the 3rd floor. Mr. Abubakar, please come with us as well." He did not raise his voice. He looked at Tessie at counter 2. "Mrs. Adekunle, I am sorry to ask. We will need you to give a statement. Please come with us as well." He turned to his mother. "Mama, will you come?" "I will come. Slowly, please. I will go at the pace I am going." He smiled once, briefly, and offered her his arm. She took it. They walked, together, across the banking hall, past the 4 lawyers, past Mrs. Bankley, past the receptionist who was now standing, past 40-some new customers who had not yet pretended not to see anything, because they did not yet know what they were seeing. And they went up to the 3rd floor. The conference room on the 3rd floor of the Pinnacle Trust Bank Victoria Island building was 12 meters by 7. It had a long table of polished walnut, 12 chairs, a flat screen on the wall at the far end, bottled water, notepads, a jug of palm wine, which had been put out for an afternoon delegation that was no longer coming. Mrs. Bankley asked for the palm wine to be removed. The room was rearranged in the time it took them to walk up the stairs. 3 chairs at one end for the respondents, Festus, Adobe, Hassan. 1 chair at the side for the witness, Tessie. 3 chairs at the other end for the hearing panel. Mrs. Bankley as chair, Tunde Balagan on her left, Yusuf Garba on her right. 2 chairs against the wall, set slightly back from the table, for Madam Ithioma and her son. The 4 lawyers sat behind Mohammed's Swallow side table, with their laptops open. The CCTV technician was already in the corner, with a laptop connected to the wall screen. Mrs. Bankley opened a folder. She looked at her watch. "This hearing is now in session," she said. "It is 9:56 a.m. on Wednesday, the 13th of March. The matter before us is an internal investigation into the conduct of 3 staff members of the Victoria Island branch of Pinnacle Trust Bank Limited. This is a formal internal disciplinary hearing held under the bank's Staff Handbook Section 12, Subsection 3. In compliance with the Nigerian Labour Act, the bank's collective agreement with the National Union of Bank Employees, and the procedural requirements set out in the Industrial Court ruling of Oyabanji versus Sky Bank, 2024. The respondents have the right to remain silent. The respondents have the right to legal representation. The respondents have the right to challenge the evidence. The respondents have the right to call their own witnesses. The respondents have the right to a written copy of the proceedings. Each of you has been provided with these rights in writing in the documents in front of you. Mr. Onuoha, do you understand? Aye, yes. Mrs. Iheanacho, do you understand? Yes. Mr. Abubakar, do you understand? Yes, ma'am. Do any of the respondents wish to request legal representation before we proceed? Festus opened his mouth. He closed it. I will represent myself. Mrs. Iheanacho? I will, yes. I will represent myself. Mr. Abubakar? He looked at the table. Ma'am, I do not have a lawyer. You have the right to one. We can adjourn for 24 hours so that you can obtain counsel. He looked at her. He looked at the floor. Ma'am, I do not have a lawyer. I will speak for myself. Are you sure? Yes, ma'am. Very well. Let the record show that all three respondents have waived their right to representation at this stage. Tunde, please present the preliminary findings. Tunde Balagan stood. He was a thin man in his 50s, with reading glasses on a chain around his neck. He had been head of legal at Pinnacle Trust Bank for 12 years. He had never been in a hearing this serious in this building before. He spoke for 14 minutes. He laid out the events of Tuesday, the 12th of March, between the times of 10:43 a.m. and 10:57 a.m. He cited the bank's own customer service standards. He cited Section 4(2) of the CBN Consumer Protection Framework. He cited Section 36 of the Constitution. He cited the bank's staff handbook. He summarized the customer's account history. He summarized the customer's transaction history. He summarized the customer's identity verification, which had been fully complete in the bank's own system before the customer ever walked through the front door yesterday. Then he asked the technician to play the footage. It played for 9 minutes. There was no sound on the recording. The camera was mounted above counter 3. Madam Ifeoma's back was to the camera for most of the recording. Adaobi's face was visible the whole time. Then Festus walked into frame, and his face was visible. Then Hassan walked into frame. Then the chair caught against the counter, and the handbag fell, and the contents rolled, and the older woman went down. And the screen filled for 31 seconds with the image of a small Bible on the marble floor, and a man's photograph in surgical scrubs, and a string of prayer beads, while the people on screen did nothing. Then the recording showed Tessie walking around the counter. Then it showed Madam Ifeoma standing up by herself. Then it showed her walking out. Tunde stopped the recording. He sat down. Mrs. Bankole spoke. Mr. Onuoha, you have seen the recording. Do you accept that this is an accurate record of what happened? Ma'am, the recording does not show. That was not the question. Do you accept that this is an accurate record of what happened? Yes, ma'am. Mr. Onuoha. The customer presented a check for 47,500,000 naira, drawn against an account that has been active in this bank for 23 years. With a valid BVN, with a current national ID, with a current international passport, with a transaction history that includes more than 230 similar transactions over the same period of time. You refused to authorize the transaction. On what grounds did you refuse? Festus was quiet for a long time. Ma'am, I did not believe the customer. Why did you not believe the customer? She did not. Her presentation. Her presentation. Her clothes. The way she. I am going to ask you to be specific, Mr. Onuoha. What about the customer's clothes led you to disbelieve her? Ma'am, this is a serious bank. So we see there are people who try to. Fraud is a significant problem in our industry. And, Mr. Onuoha, was the customer's documentation fraudulent? No, ma'am. Did you check it? I did not personally check. Did anyone check it? Ms. Iheanacho checked the documentation. Ms. Iheanacho. Did you check the documentation? Ma'am, The system showed that the customer's identity was verified, that her BVN was matched, that her account was active, and that her account balance was sufficient to cover the requested withdrawal. Is that correct? Yes, ma'am. Then why did you not authorize the transaction? Ma'am, I felt the amount was unusual. You felt the amount was unusual. Yes, ma'am. Have you reviewed the customer's transaction history? Not in detail. Would you like to review it now? Ma'am. Mr. Balagan, please display the customer's transaction history for the last 5 years. The screen changed. A table appeared. 48 transactions of similar size. Always in March. Always to a separate account labeled Emmanuel Namdi Memorial Scholarship Station. Authorized in 12 other branches over the years. Authorized at the Victoria Island branch 11 separate times. Adaobi looked at the screen. She did not say anything, Mrs. Bankole continued. Miss Iheanacho, the check the customer presented yesterday was identical in pattern, amount, beneficiary, and signing structure to 47 previous transactions in this bank, including 11 at this very branch. The transaction history was visible on your screen. Did you review it? Ma'am, there were many tabs open. Did you review it? No, ma'am. Why not? She did not answer. Miss Iheanacho, I am going to ask you this question once. I would like you to think before you answer. Why did you not review the customer's transaction history before deciding that her check could not be verified? Adaobi's eyes filled. Ma'am, I did not think she. I did not think she could have that money. Why did you not think she could have that money? Because. Why, Ms. Iheanacho? Because of how she looked, ma'am. There was a long silence. Mrs. Bankole did not write anything down. The lawyers behind her were writing. Thank you for your honesty, she said. She turned Onuoha. Did you review the customer's transaction history before instructing Mr. Abubakar to remove her from the banking hall? Ma'am, at the time. Yes or no, Mr. Onuoha? No, ma'am. Why not? He did not answer. She waited. He did not answer. She turned to Hassan. Mr. Abubakar, ma'am, you pulled the customer's wrist with sufficient force to cause her to fall. You can see this on the recording. Yes, ma'am. Did Mr. Onuoha instruct you to use force? He did not instruct me to use force, ma'am. What did he instruct you? He said to show her to the door, ma'am. And what did you understand by that? Ma'am, I understood that he wanted her removed from the banking hall. I have been working here for 8 years, ma'am. I know what the manager means when he says that. He means he wants the person gone. I have done it before. You have done it before. Yes, ma'am. How many times? He looked at the table. Ma'am, I do not know. Many times. Could you give me an estimate? Ma'am, perhaps 12 times, over the last year. For what kinds of customers? He did not answer. Mr. Abubakar, ma'am, for customers like Mama. What do you mean by that? For customers who came in, and the manager felt they did not belong. And what did you feel about it, Mr. Abubakar? He was silent. Mr. Abubakar. Ma'am, I am sorry. What were you sorry about? Ma'am, every time I did it, I knew it was wrong. I have 4 children, ma'am. I needed this job. I needed it. I am the only one earning in my house. I told myself the manager knew better. I told myself I was just doing what I was told. But I knew, ma'am. I knew. And yesterday was the worst, because the customer was an elderly woman, and she had not done anything. She was just standing there. And he stopped. He did not cry. He held the edge of the table. I am sorry, ma'am. I am sorry, sir. I am sorry, Mama. I have nothing else to say. Mrs. Bankole looked at him. She looked at the panel. She looked at Madam Ifeoma. Then she said, Thank you, Mr. Abubakar. We will return to your situation shortly. Ms. Adekunle, please come forward. Tessie stood. She walked to the witness chair. She sat. Ms. Adekunle, you witnessed the events of yesterday morning. Yes, ma'am. Can you describe what you saw? She told them. She did not soften anything. She told them that Adaobi had stalled deliberately. She told them that Adaobi had whispered insults to her, which she had not responded to because she had been afraid. She told them that Festus had been laughing as he walked back to his office. She told them that Hassan had hesitated for a moment before he had pulled. She told them that no one in the banking hall, not one of the customers, not one of the staff except herself, had moved to help Madam Ifeoma. She told them that she had only moved when she had moved, because the woman had reminded her of her own grandmother in Ibadan. She told them that she had also seen, in the 18 months she had worked at the branch, at least 15 similar incidents. She said she could name some of them. She said she had written some of them down. She produced a small black notebook from her uniform pocket. She placed it on the table. I started writing them down 6 months ago, ma'am. I did not know what to do with the list. I am sorry I did not bring it forward sooner. Mrs. Bankole took the notebook. She opened it. She read in silence for almost a minute. Then she closed it. She put her hand on top of it. "Thank you, Ms. Adekanle," she said. "You may sit down. Mr. Balagan, please secure this notebook as evidence. Mr. Garber, the Ethics Committee will need to review every name in this book." The notebook was taken. Tessie walked back to her chair against the wall. She was shaking. Madame Ifeoma reached out, briefly, and touched her hand. The hearing recessed for 30 minutes while the panel withdrew. When they returned, Mrs. Bankole read the findings. On the question of the customer's treatment yesterday morning, the panel finds that the customer was treated in violation of the customer dignity standards of Pinnacle Trust Bank Limited, in violation of Section 4(2) of the CBN Consumer Protection Framework, and in violation of basic human decency. On the question of Mr. Festus Onuoha, the panel finds that Mr. Onuoha refused to authorize a fully verified transactions on the basis of the customer's personal appearance, that he did so without reviewing available evidence, that he did so as part of an ongoing pattern of behavior at this branch under his management, and that he instructed a junior member of staff to physically remove an elderly customer from the banking hall. The panel further finds that Mr. Onuoha lied during this hearing about the limits of his recollection. The panel recommends summary dismissal with cause under the Staff Handbook Section 12. Subsection 8. The panel further recommends reporting of his conduct to the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria for the purposes of professional discipline. The panel further recommends civil action by the bank for damages on the basis of professional liability. She paused. On the question of Miss Adaobi Iheanacho, the panel finds that Miss Iheanacho stalled a verified transaction on the basis of the customer's personal appearance, that she demanded documents that were not required by regulation, that she addressed the customer with disrespect, and that her own admission today confirms that her conduct was motivated by appearance-based judgment of the customer. The panel recommends summary dismissal with cause. The panel further recommends reporting of her conduct to the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. The panel further recommends a formal letter to the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission documenting the misconduct, which under current law may affect her ability to obtain similar positions in regulated financial institutions. She paused. On the question of Mr. Hassan Abubakar, the panel finds that Mr. Abubakar used unnecessary force in removing the customer from the banking hall, and that he did so following an instruction from his superior. The panel finds that Mr. Abubakar's conduct, while not justified, is mitigated by the circumstances of his employment, by his immediate and unsolicited acknowledgement of wrongdoing, and by his stated remorse. The panel recommends a 6-month suspension without pay to be followed by mandatory completion of a customer dignity training program, after which, if successfully completed, Mr. Abubakar will be eligible for reinstatement in a customer-facing role. She paused again. Are there any objections to these findings? Festus stood. Ma'am, I would like to lodge an appeal. You have the right to do so. You have 7 days under the Staff Handbook. You may file your appeal in writing with the Industrial Court if you choose. Be aware that the bank intends to file civil action in parallel and that any appeal will be heard alongside our case. He sat down. He did not say anything else. Adobe spoke. Ma'am, I would like to apologize. To whom? She turned to Madame Ifeoma. She did not stand up. She looked at her hands. Mama, I am sorry. There was a silence. Madame Ifeoma did not answer. Mrs. Bankole said, Monsieur Iheanacho, the customer is not required to accept your apology. You may continue if you wish. Mama, I am sorry for what I said yesterday. I am sorry for what I thought. I am sorry I made you stand there. I am sorry I made you ask me again. I am sorry I made you fall. I am sorry I sat at this table and lied. Are you sorry because of what you did? Madame Ifeoma said. Or because of who I am? Adaobi did not answer. Because if you are sorry because of who I am, you will do it again to the next woman in a wrapper. And then you will be sorry again, and you will mean it again, and it will mean nothing again. So please, my daughter, be sorry for the right reason. Or do not be sorry. Adobe looked up. She was crying. She did not say anything. Hassan stood. He walked slowly around the table. He stopped 2 meters from Madame Ifeoma's chair. He went down on one knee. "Mama," he said, "I am sorry I pulled your wrist. I will be sorry for the rest of my life. I will take the suspension. I will take the training. I will earn back the chance. I will not ever again do that to anyone." He waited. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "Stand up, my son. Do not kneel. Kneeling is for God." He stood. She added, "Take the chance. And remember that the next person you see in worn slippers may be carrying more than you can imagine." He nodded. He walked back to his chair. He sat down. The hearing closed at 12:48 p.m. Festus walked out under escort. Adobe walked out alone. Hassan walked out last, very slowly. Tessie stayed in the conference room with the panel for another 20 minutes, going through her notebook page by page, identifying customers by date and counter and incident. Chaim watched his mother through all of this. He did not say anything during the hearing. He had not been required to. When the room emptied, he sat down beside her. She put her hand on his arm. "You did well, my son." "I did very little, Mama." "You did what your father would have done." "He would have done more." "He would not. He would have done exactly this, quietly, with witnesses, with a record. He would have refused to let it be about him." He nodded, she added. "But there is more to do." "I know. How many?" "From Tessie's notebook, 15 at this branch. From the system flags, possibly more across other branches. Then there is work. There is work, Mama. Take me home first. I am tired." "Yes, Mama." He stood. He helped her up. They walked slowly to the elevator. They went down to the ground floor. They walked through the banking hall, which had returned to its normal Wednesday morning activity. The customers in the queue did not notice them. The receptionist, who now stood every time someone came through the front doors, greeted them as they passed. "Good afternoon, madam. Good afternoon, sir." "Good afternoon, my daughter," Madame Ifeoma said. They stepped out into the heat of Akin Adesola Street at 12:53 p.m. Chaim hailed a taxi. He did not call his driver. They went home in a taxi. What followed over the next 11 days was, in the dry language of a corporate report, a comprehensive customer redress review conducted under the auspices of the Office of the Chairman and the Internal Ethics Committee, covering all branches of Pinnacle Trust Bank Limited in the Southwest region. In ordinary language, what followed was this. 43 customers were contacted. Each of them was contacted personally by phone by a member of the bank's internal audit team who had been trained the previous Friday in a one-day workshop on how to make a difficult call. Each of them was invited to come into the head office, at the bank's expense if necessary, to speak about an incident that had happened to them in a Pinnacle Trust branch within the previous 18 months. Some of them came in. Some of them did not. Some of them came in and then walked back out because the building made them anxious. Of the 43 contacted, 29 eventually sat down with the internal audit team and told their stories. Of these, 3 had stories that were so similar to Madame Ifeoma's that Mrs. Bancoli asked permission to record them, in case they were ever needed. The first was Mrs. Adesua Igbenidion. She was 71 years old. She had come into the Victoria Island branch on the 17th of October the previous year, 6 weeks after the death of her husband, to access a savings account he had held for 40 years. The account was modest, slightly under 1 million naira. She had brought with her the death certificate, the marriage certificate from 1973, his ID card, her ID card, and a letter from their lawyer. Festus Onuoha had told her, after a 40-minute wait, that the documents were insufficient for the purposes of a deceased estate inquiry, and that she should return when the formal probate process had been completed by the courts. When she had asked very quietly how long that would take, he had told her Mama, that is between you and your lawyer. We have other customers. She had walked out. She had not returned. She had eventually accessed the funds 8 months later through a different branch, with the same documents. The second was Mr. Sunday Okachukwu, 54, driver for a trading company in Lagos Island. He had come in on the 8th of January with a cash deposit of 340,000 naira, which had been collected from a delivery client. Festus had called him into his office. Adaobi had been present. Festus had asked him several questions about the source of the money. He had answered all of them honestly. Festus had then suggested, in Adeobi's presence, that he should consider making smaller deposits in future because larger ones from people in his line of work would look less suspicious. Sunday had said nothing. He had returned to his car. He had not deposited cash at Pinnacle Trust Bank again. He had moved his account to a different bank 3 weeks later. He had told the auditor, on the phone, that the worst part of the experience was not the implication of dishonesty. The worst part was that Adaobi had laughed when he left the office, and he had heard her laugh through the closed door. The third was Mrs. Halima Ibrahim, 63, a trader who sold dried fish at the Mile 12 market. She had come in on the 22nd of February to make a small deposit and to ask a question about a missed standing order. Adaobi had told her, in front of 2 other customers, that her balance was too small to be worth her bothering us with questions, and that she should perhaps consider one of the smaller banks. Mrs. Ibrahim had taken her money out of the account that day. She had brought it home in a black plastic bag. She had not deposited it in any bank since. She had told the auditor that what she missed was the feeling of having an account. It had been her first ever bank account. She had opened it when she was 43. Each of these 3 women, and Mr. Ochukwu, and 25 other customers, received the following: a written apology from Pinnacle Trust Bank Limited, signed by the chairman. A meeting with the chairman, if they wanted one, at a location of their choosing. A compensation payment, calculated according to a framework that Mrs. Bankole had developed over the previous week. The framework took into account the nature of the incident, the documented harm, the time elapsed, and the bank's assessment of the dignity violation. The payments ranged from 350,000 naira to 4,200,000 naira. A reopened account, if the customer wished one. A waiver of all account maintenance fees for life, and, for any customer who wished to take it, a place on a 6-person customer voice advisory panel, which would meet quarterly to review the bank's customer service standards. The panel was to be paid a small honorarium. 11 of the contacted customers accepted seats on the panel. Mrs. Ardasua Igbenidian did not accept compensation. She accepted the apology. She refused the money. She said, on a Thursday afternoon in the chairman's office, with her hands folded on her purse and her late husband's ID card on the table in front of her, "Sir, thank you. I do not want your money. I want you to do this in every branch. I want my granddaughters to grow up never having to learn how to swallow what I swallowed in October. I want you to put this woman on your panel." And here she pointed at the door, behind which Madam Ifeoma was waiting. "Because she will keep you honest. That is what I want." The bank put Madam Ifeoma on the panel. She chaired it. Within 21 days of the hearing, in the 3rd-floor conference room, the Pinnacle Trust Bank Customer Dignity Reform Initiative was passed by the Board of Directors by a vote of 8-0. The dissenting voices from the prior board meeting had withdrawn their objections after reviewing the audit findings. The initiative included mandatory customer dignity training for every member of staff in every branch, to be repeated annually. It included a mystery shopper program in which trained mystery shoppers from a diverse range of ages, occupations, and backgrounds would visit branches without notice and report on their experience. It included an anonymous customer complaint portal, monitored directly by the office of the chairman. It included a quarterly review of branch performance against customer dignity metrics, weighted equally with profit metrics. It included a permanent prohibition on any staff member ever asking a customer for their occupation as a precondition of service. It included, finally, a small change that nobody outside the bank ever noticed. The plaque that hung at the entrance of every branch, the one that listed the bank's values in 5 words, in large gold lettering, was changed. It had previously read integrity, excellence, innovation, growth, surface. After the reform, it read dignity first, everything else follows. Madam Ifeoma had been asked to approve the wording. She had said, "It will do." On the morning of the 3rd Tuesday after the hearing, an elderly woman in a grey wrapper, a white blouse with a small ink mark on the cuff, wooden slippers, and a black scarf walked into the Pinnacle Trust Bank Victoria Island branch at 10:33 a.m. She greeted the receptionist, who stood and greeted her back without looking at her phone. She walked to the back of the customer service queue. She waited 14 minutes. When her turn came, she walked to counter 2. Tessie Adekunle was at counter 2. She had been promoted 2 days earlier to Senior Customer Service Officer, with a corresponding raise that took her salary closer to what she had been hoping it would reach by the end of the year. She had not been told why she had been promoted, although she had her suspicions. She looked up. She smiled. "Good morning, Mama. How can I help you today?" "Good morning, my daughter. I would like to make a small deposit." "Of course, Mama. May I have your account number?" "It is on the slip." She passed the slip across the counter. Tessie typed. She did not type slowly. She did not delay. She did not ask for additional documents. The transaction was completed in 5 minutes and 17 seconds. "Thank you, Mama. Is there anything else I can help you with today?" "No, my daughter. Thank you. Have a good morning, Mama." "You too, my daughter." She stood. She walked slowly toward the door. She paused halfway across the banking hall and looked at counter 3. There was a new customer service officer at counter 3, a young man, maybe 23. He was speaking to an older man in a worn jacket about a complaint with a standing order. He was listening carefully. He was nodding. He was apologizing. She watched for 30 seconds. Then she walked the rest of the way to the door, and she stepped out onto Akin Adesola Street, and she stood for a moment in the sun. She did not call a taxi. She walked the 2 blocks to the bus stop. She took a bus home. That evening, her son came to her house with a small bag of groundnuts and a carton of malt drink. They sat at the kitchen table. He asked her how the visit had been. She thought about it. "They served me well," she said. "Was it different?" "It was different." "How was it different?" She thought again. "They served me," she said, "as if they did not know who I was." He smiled. "That was the point, Mama." "Yes," she said. "That was the point." She opened the bag of groundnuts. She passed half of them to him. They ate in silence for a while. Then she said, "Daniel, Mama, I have told you, it is Chime. You are still Daniel to me sometimes." "I know, Mama." "What happened to the young man?" "Hassan. He completed the training. He is back. He is on the floor. On the floor. As a customer service trainee, not as security." "And the girl?" She did not contest the dismissal. She has not been hired by another regulated institution. I think she is selling something on Instagram now. And the manager. His case is in the industrial court. We will likely win. He will likely never work in banking again. You disapprove? No, I am thinking. What are you thinking? She put down the groundnut she had been about to crack. "I am thinking," she said, "that what we did was right. But what we did was also expensive. I am thinking that the woman who lost her job, she will go and tell her family that she lost her job because she insulted a chairman's mother. She will not, in her own telling, have lost it because she insulted a person. So she will not learn. And the next bank she works at, she will be more careful, but only with people who look like they might be chairman's mothers. She will still be the same person. So the question is, was it really her we changed?" He looked at her. No, he said. It was not really her we changed. Who did we change? The bank. And the customers? And the customers. And the new young man at counter 3. Yes. And Tessie. Yes. And perhaps Hassan. Perhaps. She nodded. Then it was enough, she said. She cracked the groundnut. She passed the kernel to her son. He took it. He ate it. Outside the kitchen window, the sun was going down over Anthony Village, and from somewhere down the road came the sound of a generator starting, and a child's laugh, and a woman calling another woman by her first name. One more thing before we close out today's story. The way Matmafioma was treated at that bank counter is not unusual. I want to say that plainly, because the story you just listened to is a story, but the thing the story is about is not. There is real research, from real service industries, in many countries, that shows the same pattern over and over. Customers in modest clothing wait longer. Customers with regional accents are interrupted more. Elderly customers are spoken over. Customers whose jobs are not visible from the way they dress are asked more questions about the source of their money. None of this is new. None of this is hidden. The only thing unusual about the story you just heard is that the woman in the wrapper happened to own a piece of the bank. Most women in wrappers do not own pieces of the bank. Consumer protection laws are different depending on where you live. In Nigeria, you can file a formal complaint with the central bank's Consumer Protection Department, and you can also file with the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. In other countries, there are equivalent bodies. The names change. The principle does not. If a bank, a hospital, a government office, or any institution that takes your money or holds your time treats you as if you do not exist, you have the right to write that down, with the date and the names and the location, and to send it to a regulator who is paid to read it. Please do not assume that nothing will happen. Sometimes nothing happens. Sometimes everything happens. You will not know which one until you send the letter. If the experience left you with more than anger, if it left you afraid to go back, ashamed to speak, sleeping badly, second-guessing your right to your own money, please understand that the harm done to you is real, and is not in your head, and is something you can talk to someone about. I am not a counselor. I am not a lawyer. Nothing in this story is professional advice. I am just someone who has watched older women being made to feel small at counters, and who has wondered who it costs more, them for swallowing it, or us for allowing it. If you take only one thing from today's story, take this. Dignity is not something the rich grant the poor. It is not something the young grant the old. It is not something the powerful grant the weak. It is something every person has by virtue of being a person, and the only thing any of us is asked to do in the small encounters of any ordinary Tuesday is to recognize it where it stands in front of us. The world will be different on the day that the woman in the wrapper does not need to own a piece of the bank in order to be treated like a customer. Until then, write the letter.